Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Living in Loserville Podcast, Purple People Eaters edition. I am your host, Chris Carlson. My co-host, Aaron Miller, will be joining us shortly. And oh boy, do we have a whole lot to talk about. Our beloved Minnesota Vikings come through in the clutch to get the biggest win under Mike Zimmer. Biggest win for Cousins in his career as well, as far as at the quarterback position, right? A whole lot of things happened in the clutch. Yeah, it's weird to say that. Vikings in the clutch, but it happened. And they're moving on. They are moving on. So we got a whole lot to talk about. We call it the Living in Loserville Podcast just for this week. It may be the podcast formerly known as Living in Loserville because the Gophers won 2 against Auburn. But anyway, like I said, we're going to break down this game from yesterday. You know, it had its up and down. We got down 10-3. It was a defensive struggle there for a while. It opened up a little bit. The run helped. The defense played great for the most part. That's 4 games in a row now. So there's a variety of positivities that we're going to touch on. There's some negativities, but not many of them. Mostly positive in this one. On a variety of levels. It was that team game that we hadn't put together. Remember that? Where the defense and the offense plays either very good to great throughout the game. Sure, there was some, a slow start offensively as far as getting the ball down the field. Sure, the defense gave up a couple of big plays, no doubt about it. But on both sides of the ball, they got it done, man. Maybe special teams we could, rip on. That'll be one of the negatives, except, the kicking, of course. But anyway, we're definitely going to break this game down and just chew on it for a while, kind of sit in the sun and enjoy the sunbathing because it is a great, great day, man, for Minnesota football and Vikings football in general. And then, of course, after we're done breaking it down, we're going to preview and predict the game coming up this Saturday. Luckily, we did kind of get that bye week. We should be a little bit more fresh. Not that it was a bye week, but Zimmer made it a bye week heading in to week 17, the 16th game against the Bears. So that actually probably helps us. But yeah, we're going to break down, preview, predict the Niners game. I think it's 3:30. Something like that, 3:30 start Central Time or something like that on Saturday at the number 1 seed Niners. It's a big game. It is a big game. There's full of challenges. I think it's going to be a little bit even more low scoring in the end than this game, not by much, but I think it will. Really looking forward to it though. I mean, that's big. It's big for, as we know, the narrative, however you want to go with it. It's big for Cousins. It's big for the Vikings in general. It's big for Zimmer. A lot of people have been calling for his head, and not just your run-of-the-mill emotional fan on Twitter or in the Facebook group, but, prominent, well, maybe not prominent media members, but it's been speculated. It's been speculated. And, the owner actually had a couple of things to say about Zim and about Spielman heading into this week. It sure looks a lot better on Monday. So we're going to break all this thing down. And then, if you've been listening to the show all season, first of all, we want to appreciate that. We want to say thank you. We really much appreciate that. But we also do a short and to the point Minnesota Gophers football segment at the back end, okay? Because we figure there's a percentage of you Vikings fans that, follow the Gophers, especially with this type of season. They got a big win over Auburn, their best win of the year, finished 11-2. So we'll talk a little bit about that. If this is your first time listening to the Living in Loserville podcast, you can find it right here on blogtalkradio.com/rope-a-dope radio. It streams live at archives. It's basically the headquarters. However, you don't have to just listen to it on Blog Talk. We're really all over the place, whether it's Apple Podcast, Player FM, Spreaker, Stitcher. We're also part of the Grueling True Sports Podcast Network, which can be found everywhere, including iHeartRadio. In fact, if you use your Siri or Alexa through Spotify or TuneIn, you can find each platform, whether it's the Grueling Truth or the Rope a Dope Radio podcast, to listen to the Living in Loserville podcast. Why don't you head on over, in fact, to the Grueling Truth, to the Boxing Truth. That's an old website, by the way. TheGruelingTruth.net. They got a great sponsor over there, betnow.eu, with the promo code TGT. TheGruelingTruth.net. It's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's boxing, it's everything in between. And one more thing, if you're thinking about cutting the cord, or maybe you have, and you're just not happy, you need some form of streaming cable or whatever, just some sort of package, I got the thing for you. It's called AT&T TV Now. I actually use it myself. There's a 7-day free trial. There's no annual contracts, but the plans start as low as $50 a month. You can stream it anywhere. They have the cloud DVR. It's available across the country, like here in Minneapolis, parts of California, Florida, New York, Texas, some places on the far west in Seattle, in St. Louis, just a variety of places. It's a growing network here. You can actually go to the website and put in your area code, see if it's available there. It's called AT&T TV Now. It's live streaming cable. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Aaron. Got to check his temperature. Speaking of temperature, we've had some nice weather just in general. I was going to say brisk, but not really brisk. We've had it pretty easy the last maybe week or so, considering it's January anyway. I guess we got all the cold stuff out early December so far, but we know it's coming. But either way, man, you're sitting here Monday morning, and the Vikings got one of their biggest playoff wins on the road. I remember the Niners in the 80s, when Carter went off, and they won that one. I think, was it Holt or somebody had an interception return as well. I think it was Isaac Hope, but I'm not totally sure on that. But definitely the biggest win in Zimmer's time here. What's going through your head just off the top of your head, man? I mean, I've been on cloud nine ever since that throw to Rudolph, man.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, I'm still waiting for New York to overturn the call on the field for a pass interference there.
Right.
I don't know what the statute of limitations are, but I still don't feel like we're in the clear quite yet on that one. I feel like tomorrow maybe they could, decide that that's just what they're going to do because everybody keeps talking about it. And, I don't know. I thought it was hand fighting. There was this and that going on. And so, I'm glad it was a no call, but yeah, it still lingers a little bit because I thought, dead for sure Vikings fans knew that they were going to pull that card at the end of the game. It turns out they didn't. But yeah, I mean, we're going through the cold nights and the warm days, so everything, thaws and freezes and turns icy and all that stuff. But yeah, other than that, man, 2 great wins from the clubs this week, and couldn't be more surprised by either of them. I thought, who would have saw it coming, I guess is a good way to put it.
It's true. Who would have saw it coming? I mean, it was, especially when we get down early in some of these games, and in fact, Auburn got up on the Gophers, and New Orleans did as well, only 10-3, and I think they only got up 7 points as well. But, yeah, I agree with that, the non-PI call. First of all, the cornerback established the hand play first. He's the one who put the hands on. So for a good 20, 25 years, we saw with Moss and Carter all the time, they would allow almost guys to put their hands on them. And then at the last second, oh, excuse me, bam. You know what I mean? You have a right to clear space. He didn't turn around. He didn't really make a play on the ball. So I mean, yeah, we're biased over here, but I mean, the way the league is called off for the offensive player, that there's no way that's PI, and it's obviously nowhere near what happened to the Saints last year, which that one was ridiculous. But Yeah, I'm glad. You're right, though. There is some moments where it happened, and then you're like, oh, that's right. They review every touchdown. Hold on. Whoa, wait a second. We're not out of the clear just yet, but they did. They did get it done, and just kind of taking it through the game. We're going to go over some keys to the game, some positivity stuff, a lot of it, obviously, some negatives, like we mentioned, but just kind of we're going to take you through the keys of the game. Offensively, defensively, the flow of the game. And, we actually started with a decent little drive going. It kind of looked like we're starting to move the ball a little bit. And Thielen caught the ball, and he got it knocked out. A helmet kind of hit his elbow in a perfect spot. Not much you can do about it there, especially what he was kind of doing with it. He was kind of leaping a little bit in a sense or going to the ground. So he didn't have it tight to his chest or anything, but that type of thing happens. They returned it to the 37. Luckily they didn't return it as far as they first, it had looked like. But Hunter and Griff, I think on a third down, kind of met at the quarterback. That was a theme as well. And it, on the third and goal and it forced a field goal. So you're like, okay, that's a win, no big deal. And Matson had a screen pass and also a pitch run that was pretty successful. You had Irv Smith Jr. on that play, especially the pitch run, blocking really, really well. And then we had this Diggs play, the trick play. That got us to 2nd and 15. I don't mind some trick plays. The reverse and the end around stuff 3 times a game is a little like, all right, dude, I ran the end around in middle school about 4 times a game. So, what are we doing here? But, I like to switch it up. And, hey, the one thing you can't argue with, the last time they did the play, sure, Diggs missed the throw to Cousins, but Cousins was wide open. Just because the play didn't work the last time we used it, I think that was the Green Bay game, right? I think that was. Maybe it was the game before, but we used it, and it would have worked if Diggs probably just sit there and stop running and throw it. But in this one, just throw the ball away, dude. Just throw the ball away. But, it was kind of a weird situation. But either way, on a 3rd and 15, Cousins got his arm hit a little bit, and the ball kind of sailed. And it was kind of a drive that looked promising. And, it only ended up with a field goal. So it's 3-3. You could tell early on the first quarter and a half it was a defensive struggle on both sides, really. There was a fair amount of punts, 4 or 5 of them, just a handful of minutes in the second quarter. And we were running the ball very, very well. That's something that really stood out to me. Cousins was 5 of 6 on screen passes or maybe a quick slant, just something short. We weren't really stretching the field just yet. Speaking of PI, there was a 3rd down play that would have been a 1st down. Rudolph definitely got held on that one. But then things started to change a little bit, Aaron. And Hill, this freaking Hill, we can't even control this freaking guy, the do-it-all Mr. Hill here. He had a deep ball to Rhodes on Rhodes and probably Harrison. I remember maybe a month and a half ago, it clearly Rhodes looked like he was the one that was the problem in that one. But maybe Harrison got beat on that one too, since he is the safety. Either way, Rhodes got juked to the left. He was like, we're going over here. Oh no, we're going over there. And, it was ugly. It was like, okay, well, Hill threw the deep ball. They got it. And Kamara ran it in. And it's 10-3. And then we had a drop ball by Thielen. And you're like, oh boy, dude, here we go. What's going on? But Rudolph had a 1st down catch, nice 1st down catch. On the drive, Cook had a nice run as well. Bradbury pancaked dude on a nice little catch and run from Cook by the sidelines. But the defense held again for the Saints, and now it's only 10-6, and we felt like, man, we've had some good drives. What was your thought process right there when they got the 10-3 lead, when it didn't seem like we were, kind of felt like some red zone issues, that we had with Green Bay and to a lesser extent, but still had them in that Chargers game with all those turnovers. Or was it it was the Chargers game. Or maybe it was Detroit, actually. Maybe that was it. I can't remember. They all kind of blend together. But we're not quite at half. We haven't scored that touchdown. It's right before Harris got that pick. But what were your thoughts kind of deeper into the second quarter, down 10-3, down 10-6, in a defensive struggle, which I kind of felt like it'd be a little bit more points on the board?
Well, I was looking at, and the defense was playing really well, considering it's Drew Brees and that offense, and thinking, okay, well, you're holding them down. Let's get the offense going. And then we ran the ball a few times, but kind of shot ourselves in the foot with a couple penalties, and then the drop by Thielen. And that seemed like a pretty standard sort of Viking approach to a big game. So it was like, well, defense is holding up, offense needs to get it going, and that's kind of where I was standing and looking for something down the field, not knowing that maybe that was something they were going to start working in. But I just thought that, we got to get more in the passing game. A lot of it was, passes in the flat, a couple crossing routes, but nothing down the field. Kind of feeling like Diggs kind of was about, well, where is he and why are we taking shots and that
right.
kind of thing. Just getting impatient, I think, really. And wanting to see more from the offense is kind of where I was at that point. I sort of had a pessimistic view about the game from the start, thinking that, this is a bad situation. I was thinking about the Cousins stuff. I was thinking about Viking history, all this stuff. It just didn't add up to anything good, going into that. And then lo and behold, Drew throws up a ball over the middle. Harris comes down with it. And we got a chance to go on a drive there, which kind of, brightened it up a little bit, but you thought to yourself, well, how are we going to play this? Are we going to just kind of eat the ball going to the half? Are we going to try to get some points, which is what they ended up doing? So overall, I was kind of like, I don't know, maybe not really sure of what was going on and kind of waiting for impending doom and thinking that, okay, well, here's where, the end is going to come and, there's no possible way that good's going to come out of this situation. And then all of a sudden, Harris makes a great play, which is kind of identical play that Sendejo made in the game against them at our place a few years back. So it seemed like it was the same spot, the same kind of thing, and Harris just kind of made the same play that Sendejo made. And that was an interesting little point of comparison there.
Yeah, and so there's a key right there. Sendejo playing the slot for parts of this game as well, being down corners. That's something that was one of the many keys that we're going to bring out, whether it was adjustments, defensive adjustments, and whatnot. But, Harris made a great play, the 7th INT. I think that at this moment, because we got the extra games, I think he leads the league. Maybe it's just safeties, but I think he leads the league. Maybe I'm wrong with that. I think
he leads the league as well, yeah.
Yeah,
he does lead the league.
That's pretty good, man. This guy's going to be a free agent. We're going to have to sign this guy.
Right, and everybody's saying that we're not going to be able to do that. Now, I don't know. They can work magic with the cap, but from what I heard today, the overall consensus is that we're not going to be able to re-sign him, which is a different topic. But back to Sendejo, I didn't really notice him in the slot, which is a really good thing. Like, I kept trying to find him, because I'm used to seeing Alexander or maybe Hughes in there, the two guys we were missing, and he seemed like he stepped right into that spot, like he'd been there for a while, and they tried to run Thomas on him a couple times unsuccessfully. I mean, I think he played really well in that spot, and that just kind of goes to that whole thing that Zimmer put together for a game plan for this game. It's just pretty amazing just to see how everything kind of worked out.
Yeah. And, of course, that Harris sparked, he had a nice return on it, too, which gave us good field position. And kind of a drive that it was like, 11 or 7 play drive. That field goal drive was 11 play. That's where I got a little mixed up. But Cook and Thielen kind of featured. That's another thing, having Thielen kind of shaking off that rush, shaking off the drop in the fumble, and just, getting back to him. He only got that one game in, and then he sat another game. So the rhythm, the confidence, whatever the hell it is, he really had a good second half, and it kind of got going on that drive. They ended up scoring, getting it over up on them 13-10. And then one of the negatives was some special teams, the kickoffs. Kind of a short kick, and then the coverage was bad. Got a nice run back, set them up to where, they had a 43-yarder. Luckily, they missed it. That was a big thing for us. But if you look at the half, so it's 13-10, and some of these numbers at the half, I'm starting to think, okay, dude, we started to pass a little bit more. You're right about the Diggs thing, because we hadn't even targeted him yet. You know what I mean? It's different not to have a catch or one catch for 6 yards or something, but they hadn't even targeted him yet. So at the half, you had Cousins 10 of 6 for $108, and Cook 16 carries in the first half, 84 yards, and overall, because Matson came in and had a couple of good runs too, 20 carries, $106 in the first, and then I felt like, okay, dude, now we got the lead. We started opening it up a little bit more passing, and we're also, like you said, playing great defense. When Hill is your number one rusher at that time, and overall ended up being that, we'll actually take that, because they had 8 carries for 31 yards and 8 of 12 for 63 and a pick was what the Breeze guy was looking at. So that helped us a lot. That helped us a lot. I started feeling like, okay, dude, now wait a second. This actually sets up pretty damn good for us. I did think though that they did get a little too conservative, trying to eat up maybe a little bit too much of that. But just coming into the second half here, there was a pass that was a little behind Johnson, the young rookie here that's played really well. He dropped it. He had 2 hands on it. He dropped it, but the ball was a little behind him. But, it is what it is. However, our defense, stuck with it. Griff got another sack. In fact, that sack, I think on Breeze, it was his 4th postseason sack of his career. He tied Ray Edwards, Chris Dolman, and Jared Allen for 4th most. The most is Eller with 10, Page with 8, and Marshall with 7.5. No way. Go figure, right? Those 3 are leading. Well, plus they had a lot of, playoff time in there too. But I felt pretty comfortable. I wasn't necessarily feeling great though about some of the play call in the third. It was kind of like, man, we are being conservative. Oh, another end around? Like, I don't know. But then we finally started, going deep. And Cousins got hit, delivered the ball to Thielen, made a great catch. That got us to like the 21. It was kind of like a great, it was great to see that. But then all of a sudden you did see O'Neal kind of bend his knee a little bit, because he kind of ran into Cousins there when he was getting hit. And he got up awkwardly. I'm thinking, oh boy, dude, like he's been playing great this year. We can't lose him. But then I think on a 3rd and 1, Diggs made a nice little catch on a rollout. Cook had a TD, and it's 20-10. And the only thing at that moment was, well, I saw on Twitter, Aaron, that someone said, yeah, at the end of the third, guess what the Minneapolis Miracle was, 20-10, and then they made a run. And you kind of knew that they were going to make a run. Drew Brees is over there and whatnot. But Xavier actually did get hurt this time when he hit that guy with his shoulder, and Waynes was limping. And I'm like, oh, boy, dude, like, okay, this is and then all of a sudden you got Drew Brees heating up. He like 6 or 7 in a row. The ball was completions. I mean, the ball was coming out quicker. Hill strikes again with a catch. He also struck again with a 9-yard run, and then he freaking had that like 30-yard run or whatever, maybe even longer, where he broke a tackle, and you're like, dude, it was a 48-yarder. You're like, dude, that was starting to piss me off a little bit, Aaron, though. When you got Hill, and it's a QB sneak on 3rd and 1, how the hell are you getting 9 yards? You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, dude. And so I started kind of feeling like, oh, boy, it's starting to unravel a little bit. What's going on? And they, they scored. It's 20-17. Like I said, I did feel like the play call, either we have a penalty or, the play calls were just being a little bit too conservative. I understand running clock. Don't get me wrong. The Patriots do that really well, but I kind of felt like they got a little too conservative, but you do have a 10, point lead. A really big key on the Saints drive was Hunter, once again, right? Hunter causing that fumble. I thought that was a crucial point right there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you're right about that mid-third quarter thing. I started going, this starting to unravel. Defense is letting some things go. Yeah, they were playing a little conservatively defensively. But, I really wasn't too concerned about that until much later in the game when they just started letting – and, you got Breeze on the other side, and it's like 10 points is nothing to this guy. Like, that's 2 minutes, on a good day for him. He can get that done. And so I wasn't feeling like the game was at all in the bag. You had guys making plays. This Hill kid, like you're talking about, just kept making plays. We had a possible fumble by Cook that was a – at the time I thought it was a fumble.
That's right.
And I thought, okay, this is it. That's it. That's the play. That's it.
That was the play we're waiting for.
Right. And we all, the whole state was waiting for that. We just knew that was coming, and there it was. And all of a sudden, his knee's down. Okay, well, that's good. Take a little sigh of relief and go on with it. But then there were other plays, like third down plays that weren't being converted, and the offense wasn't moving the ball. Cook wasn't running great. Breeze looked like he was sharpening up. And it just started to look like, okay, here's that same record that we've heard, time after time after time. And turns out it wasn't. And they moved the ball and they got it going. And then, like you said, we got to 17-20 and then you start to get a little sweaty. You're going, well, Jesus, now it's 3 points. And, had that Lutz not made, or had he made that field goal, we're looking at a tied game there instead of later in the game. So, it's like, okay, well, how's it going to end this time? How are we going to lose this time? Basically, that was the question that was going through my head. I wasn't even thinking about the Vikings having enough grit and resolve to actually pull this one out. I was just thinking, like, okay, how's it going to end this time? And what creative way have the Vikings found to lose this one? So, we just continue to go and get into the fourth quarter. Things don't look all that much better. You're just kind of like, plugging through the game here. But the thing that changed is that the Saints weren't making those plays. They weren't Breeze wasn't slicing us up. And so it changed a lot. The defense really held after that little glitch in the third. They kind of tightened up again and moved us on to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, exactly. That was really key. And they were really starting to get, like we said, like, moving Griff in Hunter on third down, passing downs inside, allowed for almost like, but a better version, obviously. The Gophers did that, remember, too, against Auburn and a couple times, too, when they're like, all right, we're going to get as many defensive ends on this field on these four, positions on the line, and we're going to just go after them. And so I thought that was a pretty damn good adjustment as well. But you're right, They kind of tightened up. I mentioned that fumble that Hunter, caused, and just holding the punts too, or not punts, but making them punt and also making them kick that field goal. Like you said, it's Drew Brees over there. You're thinking, oh, dude, here we go. Like, they're going to score a touchdown. How much time will be left and all that stuff. And luckily, for us, they did get that field goal. But, Zimmer tried to ice them. That dude cranked that first one. And then, did you hear that noise of the kick on the second one? It was like, oh, did he miss? Oh, no, it made it. Okay. Because it kind of sounded like it was going to get shanked.
And Zimmer was pissed, man. He was pissed, and I don't blame him. You get a practice kick, you're going to let him get a practice kick when Zimmer specifically called the timeout to avoid him actually getting a crack at taking the kick. And, he was heated up on the sideline, and I don't blame him. And, and then that second kick, like you said, is just a thud, and it just kind of knuckleballed. It's just like a knuckleball, if you can say that with a football. It's kind of knuckled through, and I didn't know. We were looking first glance if it was actually had the length that it needed to have or not, but it went through, and there we are at 2020.
Yeah, you're right. And even when that first, I don't know how many yards, it was like, oh no, okay, that's gonna be okay. You're right. It was kind of turning over, kind of funky, and I thought, is this the? No, of course not. It's the Vikings. But we had to go and get it. And that's what I love about this victory for the, the franchise, for Cousins, however you want to talk about it. There's so many layers to this. But that's what I liked. It's like, okay, dude, you got to go get it. And the fact that, we got the toss, and it felt like they were going to go for it anyway. Once they had that, the goal line stuff, and they lost some yardage, maybe they would have just, if that third down play wouldn't have worked. But either way, Cook kind of got, going again with the run game. And man, when he gets the handoff, whether it's a loss of yards or a 10-yard or 50-yard, the dude is the explosion when he gets that ball. Sometimes you just think, this could be it's a 2-yard run. But God, had he that guy missed that tackle or not got tripped, or we've seen that even our linemen trip him a little bit on a couple of runs that you think, that could have been a huge run. But Cook got another screen pass that he got, close to a first down. Diggsy caught that nice third down pass.
Real nice.
Really nice. That was just a good little bang boom, and then we got it to Cook as well with a nice run again. And then another deep ball to Thielen. And off the play action, and O'Neal on both the big plays, the touchdown obviously in this one, O'Neal said, I didn't know what coverage was anything because everybody kept screaming zero coverage, meaning go to Rudolph on that last play. We'll cover that in a second, but he had to stop what's-his-toes, Jordan, on the edge, and he just barely got that block enough to where Cousins could just minorly step up in a lot, the guy's going by him, but he wasn't turning the corner on him, and threw it right on the money. I mean, we've been talking about his deep ball since he got here, but this one was just one of the many that he's put right in the breadbasket, and then a great catch too, because that's not an easy catch. I mean, just because Diggs and Thielen make it look easy, it's a very hard catch. So to get it all the way to like the 2, you're just thinking, dude, I think we got it here, dude. I think we got it, and got a decent pickup, got a little closer, to the goal line. And on the first run, then we tried to take it on the outside, and Ham couldn't even get around. They had it. It was just like, nah, it's done, dude. Just get down or something. Don't hurt yourself. Don't fumble. That play's done. And then I thought, okay, when they first got down there, I said this is 4-down territory. But once they lost those yards, I go, it's probably the last play here. They're not going to go for it on fourth. That was just my gut. But obviously, like he said, everyone said at the end of it, the zero coverage, meaning they're coming. They're coming. So if you don't get rid of the ball, they're going to get you. And Cousins knew it, saw it, boom, put it to Rudolph. Rudolph said, I played a lot of basketball. I know how to rebound. That's what was going through his head. And kudos to O'Neal once again for keeping that edge that Jordan contained enough throughout the game. And once again, the ball was right where it needed to be. And the playmaker made the play. What'd you think about, the Diggs catch? And, that we already talked about that, but help me out, Thielen, basically Cousins in the clutch with that, that catch. And just in general, to finish it like that, not just Cousins, but the Vikings, especially in the playoffs. It's just, what was going through your head when Thielen caught that ball? Because when they gave him that little extra time, you could see Jordan wrapping around him, and I'm like, dude, he's got time, and then it happened.
Yeah, Kirk was weird that day because, he had that rollout where I thought he had plenty of time, and he threw it into the ground. Now, I don't know why he did that. He might have done it on purpose, but I was like, he had a wide open guy, and he threw it into the ground, so I didn't have a lot of faith in that. And then, just to piggyback off what you said about Cook, he's such a unique runner. It's like, it's not only speed, but the guy's got 3 moves ahead. Like, you can see him lining up. Like, his vision's amazing. He can just go off by his step. I know I've talked about this before, but it's like, it's so sudden, it's so fast, and it's so smart. Just because, if you take the step here, the second guy coming your way is going to miss the tackle, not just the first guy. It's amazing to watch the guy run when he's really running well. And so back to the game, I think the Thielen catch was not only a great pass, but a really great catch. I mean, that straight over your head, drop in the bucket catch is not an easy catch. I mean, he's basically leaning back, running at full speed, leaning his head and his back to track the ball. It was an amazing catch and a really good throw. They had mentioned that they had missed that throw in the Chicago game, and they felt good about actually hitting it this time. You know, Diggs made a great catch in traffic that I didn't even see where Diggs was. He was so surrounded by Saints at that time, and he comes up with the ball. So a lot of Vikings made clutch plays, and, you know, like I said last week about Cousins, you know, at some point, you know, it has to turn. I mean, you cannot – he's not going to go winless in playoff games. He's not going to go winless in big games. He's not going to go winless in night games. At some point, you know, the teapot has to tip. And I'm not sure that this is the game that it happened. I think it was a full team win. And had we won or lost it, I wouldn't have put it on Cousins. And I don't put the win on Cousins. But the good thing to see, and the thing that I was most surprised at, is when it was really time, like the throw to Rudolph. You know, yeah, it was an easy throw if you look at it. You know, zero coverage, go and throw a fade ball. But it had to be a good fade ball. He had to know the zero coverage was coming. And then the catch to Thielen in the clutch, or the throw to Thielen in the clutch. Those are big throws, probably the biggest throw that he's ever made. And you got to look at the price tag on that throw. I mean, that's a chance between being, you know, extended or not extended. You know, really, if you look at that throw. And he made the throw. It was a great throw. And just going forward, you know, you want to see that continue. Hopefully, it just pumps him full of confidence. He'll start to get a little looser back there and start, you know, flinging the ball like he did. Like that last season, in the beginning of the season, he seemed to be a little looser throwing the ball. You know, a little more. I'm not going to say a gunslinger because he's not, but I mean, he was more. Seemed like he wasn't so tight about throwing the ball into tight spaces, and it seems like this year's kind of been a problem for him with that. Hopefully, he can loosen up. Know that people are supporting him behind him, like. You know, I want to see what the next sample is before I make any. Like I've made some pretty strong statements about Kirk, and
on both sides.
On both sides of it too, and
both sides.
It's just really hard to put your finger on it. I want to see him continue down this road because I think he just played the best game of his career and got a good Viking win out of it, and we need to see more of that. And like I said, you know, that's an $87 million throw. We paid a lot of money for someone to make that throw. And those two throws, actually. And, you know, it's good to see. It's relieving to see. And maybe going forward have a little more faith in Kirk in big spots. I mean, maybe he's a gamer now. Who knows? Or you just don't know. It could have been a flash in the pan. Nobody knows. But it sure is refreshing to see late in the second season here with the Vikings.
Yeah, and I got to admit, this is probably the third best season of a Viking. Or fourth best, last year stat-wise. Was the third best. It's probably the fourth year best, but I'd say this year is actually better, decision-wise and all that. Less fumbles, less picks. And we know the picks on this year, not many of them have been his fault, as we know. But this isn't the first, I don't know. He's had a pretty damn good season, dude. And with missing Thielen for about 5 to 6 games and still winning games on offense, the defense tightened up the last 4 games now, but they've been giving up big play after big play. Remember for a while I was saying bend but don't break, and then they broke. So to me, he's won the primetime night game just because it wasn't at Seattle. Oh well. He's won some games now. And you also have to have a good team to win the games around you. I think that's part of it too. And you just said he played the best game of this as a Viking, but you wouldn't put it on him on the win. But then when it's a loss, then it's mostly on him. And that's where I kind of have a little problem because Cook, he had 94 yards. Remember I said, what do you have, 89 in the first or 80 in the first half? He ended up with 94. 28 and 94. We ran the ball first. We had that lead, so we ran maybe a little too much, but hey, it worked, right? But then the play action happened. But this year, there's been times where we had to pass to run. So I think this guy is a proven guy before he got here as far as can he do some stuff for you to put numbers up. That, you know, we can debate about empty numbers or not. We can debate the 0-7 before he got here on Monday night, even though his teams were giving up 26 points a game. To me, this year, he's proven himself. And you're right, of the first half to second half last year. But what happened in that time?
Yeah.
You kept getting hit. Well, remember, he would release and get hit. But then at some point, the footsteps come, and it happens to every quarterback. And look, and I'm not putting him in the top 5. He probably had a top 5 year this year, but I'm not putting him in the top 5 for quarterbacks. However, he's already the 6th paid quarterback this year. Next year it's going to be the 9th paid. And once again, I mentioned Drew Brees because of the success we've had against him. Once again, I mean, the guy had a very average game, but why? Because we were in his ass. We allowed short passing, and that was it. They couldn't run the ball. They only had that big run. That's how they got to 97 yards. It was that hill run for 50 whatever, or 40 whatever yards. That's really what it came down to. So, to me, I don't think, to say he's a top 5 guy, yeah, he'd have to prove that. But as far as a top level, top 10, top 12 quarterback, I don't know what more the guy needs to do, including he just got the biggest win in Zimmer's time ever. That's 6 years. So, yeah. That's pretty damn good. And I got a couple more things here as far as wins.
Real quick here.
Well, I just want to go on the win thing, okay?
Right.
So the Saints are 1-9 all-time in playoff games when trailing through 3 quarters. 1-5 with Brees and Peyton since 2006. Okay, so he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but if shit's not going his way, it doesn't just automatically go his way because he can just do shit out of nowhere. It's because his team and what's around him, too. And even like a guy like Peyton Manning, which Cousins isn't going to the Hall of Fame. I'm just bringing up points. For years, people thought, oh, he's way better than, Brady's better. Well, who had the defense? Who had the rushing game? Brady did for a while. Then Brady got his skills up even more, got Moss on the team. Then he started putting up big numbers. But if you look back at our team, we were 1-7. We were 6 of 6. Go, actually, do your thing. I got to find this stat. I don't want to fuck it up.
I would basically kind of led right into what I was going to say about maybe getting some perspective on exactly what might be going on with Cousins. And, I really enjoy that. You and I, we're kind of similar on our thoughts about it, but we also kind of polarized on it because, I think you have an overall a view of like maybe, a higher ceiling than I do for Kirk. I guess maybe that's excuse me.
I think he's hitting his ceiling. I just think he's a very good quarterback. He's not a great Hall of Famer, but he's a very good quarterback. Is what
I think, like I said about the perspective, is like, this is new to Kirk as well. He was on a couple, I don't know how long he was in Washington, but 3 or 4 bad Redskins teams. And he's got to adjust to actually being on a good team, and by that I mean having good players around him and a good defense, like you brought up. And then this is his 2nd playoff game of all time. So he's 1-1 in playoff games, and you can't just think that that's something that you just automatically are born with. He's going to have to fold into this. He's in the 2nd year here, end of his 2nd season. Being on the squad, and I think the biggest, bit of encouragement I get out of it is that to watch everybody rally around him, is particularly after the game, and let him know that they believe in him. And, he's got to have been feeling after the Green Bay game, and who's with me and who's not type of deal, and then to see everybody kind of circle around him and tell him they support him is probably going to help his confidence a lot. And, throughout the season, we've seen the worst Cousins pass probably ever, the first game against Green Bay, to the greatest Cousins pass here yesterday. So we've seen the gamut with Kirk. And if you look at it from beginning of Viking time to now, I say it's trending upwards. He had some great games last season, yardage and touchdowns wise, but they weren't, equating to wins. Whereas this year, maybe his numbers are down a little bit, but the wins seem to be up, and the more important wins, especially yesterday, which was non-existent in all of our conversation because it hadn't happened yet. And we're all waiting to see if it could it happen, would it happen, will it ever happen? Well, it happened. So now we have to put that into the equation when we evaluate Kirk Cousins. Yes, He had a lot of help yesterday. Yeah, he had a running game back again. He had his defense playing strong, and he had to make a couple plays, which is what everybody's always said. We brought him here to make that one throw, those couple plays during the game to be the difference. It's exactly what he did yesterday. Let's hope it continues. I want to see Kirk do very well. I want to see us win a Super Bowl. I'd like to see us win a few Super Bowls. He's a young enough guy to do that. If he can turn this corner, he could become a top 5 quarterback. The 2 of the top 5 are probably going to retire this year. So, there's got to be someone to fill those spots. He's been in the league now for 8 some odd years. He's in the prime of his career. He seems to be good with injuries, knock on wood. He's got plenty of people around him. It's nothing but up if Kirk can continue to improve. And I really think it's just a mental thing, and I really think it's just getting used to what's going on around you type of deal. He's got the players.
So that outweighs the offensive line play, though?
Well, that can improve. Yes, we need to improve on that. I don't think anything outweighs that.
But that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying, though. I think we saw it now 3 times against Drew Brees, that our line demolishes theirs in the long run, so Brees can't do shit. So why would Cousins be able to do shit in that same situation? I guess that's my point. I'm not talking about the games where he has time and he loses, the seven throws where you're like, what the fuck was that? I'm not talking about those games. I'm going back to that Green Bay game. You know what I mean? And that's where my thing is, you were extending him a month ago, and in that Green Bay game, it was majority his fault, and now you don't want to extend him. That's where I'm a little like, well, which one is it?
Well, I don't want to get caught into, Cousins has a good game, yay, Cousins has a bad game, bad offensive line. That's another loop that I don't want to get involved in either. He's capable of playing bad. He's shown he played bad. I stand behind that he played bad against the Green Bay Packers the second time around. He played bad against them the first time around. He played well against them last year, which is mind-boggling. And so, the line's getting better. Is it where it needs to be? No, it's not. Will it improve? I certainly hope so. Will that help Kirk improve? I certainly hope so. I just want to see, him continue to take the steps that he's taken. Yeah, you're going to get baby steps backwards, hopefully. It's just baby steps. But like I said, I'm in Kirk's camp, extend or no extend. If he continues to play, my whole thing about extension is
let's get to that question,
with something better.
Let's get to the question, though.
Better out there.
Let's get to the question. I agree, but that's a separate topic about every time the O-line plays well. That goes back to the pass to run first and all that type of thing. I totally agree with you there, but I'm talking about all of a sudden, because the Green Bay game, you don't want to extend him now, but a month ago you did. That's where I have the problem.
Okay, let me be clear on that. A month ago,
he didn't have all day. He wasn't sitting back there all day, signing autographs against Green Bay. I think we just, even Zimmer said they were begging us to run and we couldn't run. They played coverage and sent smart blitzes, and that fucking whatever his name is, I can't remember. I don't want to remember his name. That dude tore us up.
I'm essentially always in the same spot of I want to extend him because I don't think there's a better option. And I still don't think there's a better option out there unless you're going to bring in Tom Brady, and I'm not even sure that's a better option at this point. So I think extending him is kind of a non-question. Unless you can draft somebody is going to be a top 5, top 6, top 7 quarterback, then yeah, you got to extend him. Now, do I think that that Green Bay game it shook me, man, because he didn't play well at all. He was double clutching. He looked nervous. He looked, he had an off game. Now, whether he had a cold or a flu or whatever the hell it was, he looked off. He didn't look confident. He didn't look good, and I think it cost us a football game. Yeah, the offensive line was good. Yes, we didn't have Cook. Thielen was out. Those are all things and factors that go into it. But, a good quarterback can also sometimes overcome those obstacles. I'm not saying every time, but sometimes. And it was such a poor performance, I thought, that it makes it very hard. But at the end of the day, I would still extend him because unless you can tell me that Tua Tagovailoa and you're going to spend 3 first-round picks to get up and get him, there's just nobody out there. You want Josh McCown? He played well yesterday, too. There's nobody out there that's going to – Cousins on his worst days, top 15? you got to resign that. I guess that's where I stand on that.
Right, you stand on it now, but that's not what you said 3 shows ago. That's my point. But anyway.
No, I don't remember ever saying that I wouldn't do it. I just
because you brought up the contract extensions
question
again. Yeah, if you bring it up saying, well, should we? Well, haven't we already decided that because of the reason you just laid out right now?
I mean, I just thought the question was back on the table due to a poor performance.
So that couldn't have had anything to do with the knee-jerk emotional response either, though.
I mean, there's probably a little bit of that as well. You know, it's hard to tag it because offensive line was horrible. We didn't have Cook. We didn't have Thielen. We didn't get a chance to wipe that taste out of our mouth because we didn't play anybody against the Bears. So going into this game, all I'm thinking is that, you know, we're going to see a team try to compensate for a quarterback. And for most of the game, I thought that was sort of the case. But then when the time came to make a play, he made a play. He made 2 of them.
I mean, he made more than that. We didn't even run in the second half. I just went over the stats. But we got to move on. Let's talk about Thielen. 7 catches, Aaron, all for first downs. Like, and 4 of them came on third down. Is Thielen winding back into shape here? And I feel like he kind of needed this game, not just for confidence, but just in general. Like, this is a big game for him to kind of get his groove on, especially how it started. A couple other stats just real quick. Breeze had 17 yards passing on third down. That's pretty dominant right there defensively. And I remember us talking about it a couple weeks ago. Is it winding into shape? Is it who we're playing on some of these teams? Is the defense getting playoff ready? I think we answered this question with these last 4 games.
Yeah, Zimmer just rolled out a great defensive game plan with 2 guys out, and some wrinkles in there that you just hadn't seen. And, you know, now that you mention it, maybe he got something from that Gopher game with what they did with their ends too. I don't know where he got it or he just thought about it, but it sure was effective, and I'm sure we're going to see more of it. And I was really impressed with the defense. Like I said, I didn't even notice Endeo because he was holding down that spot. And like I said, this defense is a tough defense to play against, especially if you're not used to them. Like, that's what I'm thinking about the Niner game, which we'll get into, is, you know, we saw them, 2 seasons ago, first game of the season. And now you put 2 more years of experience on this defense with the same players. It's the continuity of that defense is the real strength of it, and the ability to communicate and what they've seen and what they haven't seen is just ridiculous. And Zimmer used all of that to his advantage against Drew Brees and shut him down. I don't know if Drew came into that game thinking he was going to have, 4 touchdowns and 370 yards throwing, but that did not happen. And I'm not going to say it was a masterpiece by Zimmer, but I really think that he really put his brain behind all the times he had seen the Saints and came up with a fantastic game plan, and it really, really, really worked well. And, offensively, it could have been better, but it certainly could have been worse. And, you just kind of, you go down these games and you think, you just wait. At beginning to see the narrative nationally, it's almost like teams are just waiting for don't have to beat the Vikings, just wait for them to beat themselves. And that's the kind of the gist I got from everybody's post-game comments on the game, was like so shocked that the Vikings didn't beat themselves. And then you start to look back at all the games where it's kind of turned out that way. And
since we've been alive, it's been
right.
That way, huh? Oh.
And how shocked people were that they actually didn't do it this time. And now there's a bunch of people on the bandwagon like, okay, maybe the Vikings have turned a corner. So I don't know. I don't want to, we're knocking on wood. I was knocking on wood all over you, so probably broke my coffee table. But, anytime they mentioned anything at all, and anytime I saw Dan Bailey, who, by the way, not going to say it.
Yeah, right.
Played well. Yeah, we'll just say he played well. And so, let's wait and see. I mean, we'll get in the San Francisco game now. I'm sure that's probably where you're leading in. I want to see this game, and to really get on a bandwagon and think, okay, this might be something. Going to need to see how well defensively we play against them, as well as offensively. How well we play, obviously you want to win that game. Obviously we're hoping we win that game, but I want to see how it goes because if you win the game, there's something there. You got something going. And I'm not saying that you don't got something going right now, but it's kind of like, okay, you win a wild card game and you go lose in San Francisco. Well, okay. Depending on how you lose is how you're going to take it. But you go on and you win, and you start to go, okay, so you got 2 more games before you win, for the Super Bowl.
Right.
It's a whole different ballgame. But as far as a wild card game on the road, tough place to play, it couldn't have gone, I guess it could have gone better, but you got the W, and you proved a lot of things that needed to be proved to give you some confidence to go into San Francisco this weekend.
Yeah, and the Waynes and Rhodes both got beat on a deep play, sure, but the rest of the time they played damn good. And whether it was doubling them, whether Xavier, I think percentage-wise he was on Thomas the most, but they did a great job there. And they've had this Saints number in a strange way. Zimmer's defense really has, and especially not this year. Rhodes in prime form. Last year's banged up, but last couple times, especially when he'd be featured on them. But in 2017, 5 of 45. Last year, 5 of 81. Now that playoff game in the second half, he started going off. 7 for 85 doesn't sound that big, but he did have 2 touchdowns. He had 7 catches, but in this one, he came in with 143 catches on the season. So I mean, that's a win. You know what I mean? That is a big win, and yeah, man, that was, like I said, we hadn't won a playoff game on the road in 15 years. That was the Green Bay game with Randy Moss giving the old moonshine, I'll say, faking it, obviously. Joe Buck thought he, dropped his drawers, but he didn't get the joke like the rest of the stadium got. But, that's Joe Buck. He's a baseball guy. What's he going to do? But 15 years has been a long time, and one of the best playoff road games I remember, well, that Giants won on some weird stuff at the end. I remember that. But I also remember the Niners game when Carter was all over the field, and I think it was Carl Lee or somebody took a pick six. Anthony Carter was just I think he set a playoff record at that time. He was just all over making plays, and here we are. I mean, is there any other loose ends you want to tie up, or should we get probably time-wise? We need to go ahead and get to this Niners game here.
Well, to start that off, I mean, you're looking at mirror images as far as teams go. I mean, same kind of offenses against each other. Both off that Shanahan tree, which is what Kubiak comes out of, and so you're looking at zones on both sides, zone running game. Really, really similar offenses, which means that, they've seen just about everything under the sun that this offense can offer defensively. Both sides have. So it's going to be tough. The defensive line for the Niners is stout, and we had a hard time with them a couple of years ago, and they didn't even have the Bosa kid. So now we're looking at another really tough.
Or D Ford. He's coming back. I forgot about that. That's a good call. Yeah.
We're looking at, we have trouble with big, strong, mean offensive lines, and that's definitely what's coming our way this week. So here we go back to offensive line talk. Can they, pull one out here? I think that's the biggest key to this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, I think, just because of familiarity of these offenses and seeing and knowing what might be coming and all the tells in the offense, and I just think that, it's going to be a bit of a chess game here, thinking moves ahead and setting stuff up offensively. I just don't see like it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I think it's kind of going to be a real grinded-out type of football game. And, of course, the way my picks have been going lately, it'll probably be a shootout. But the way I'm looking at it, it's just going to be, you got Cook, but they got a kid over there that's a pretty good running back. Kind of comparable quarterbacks, although I give Cousins the edge over Garoppolo. You got offensive lines against their defensive line. That's an advantage for their defensive line. Our defensive line against their offensive line, I got to say advantage to our defensive line. So it's kind of a mirror image thing here. It could go either way. They're at home. It's sunny San Francisco. It's really tough to call. What do you think about this?
Yeah, you're right about the packages offensively. Our linebackers are going to be key with these tight ends. That's their leading receiver, I believe, is a tight end. Their fullbacks out of the flat. You're right. It's very similar. Kendricks is a stud. He made All-Pro. Who cares about Pro Bowl? He made All-Pro. That's what counts. That's usually what counts in your contract too, by the way. Barr started off the season getting to the quarterback more. Haven't seen that as much. Not to say that it's his fault. They haven't necessarily sent him either, right? Because we've been giving up those deep balls, so it's hard to send them. But he's going to have to break out as well and be in coverage in this game. And we kind of need one of those Barr games where he's just making plays. And obviously within the system, if the plays come to him, you got to make them and whatnot, of course. But they do feature the tight end a fair amount. And also our defense creating those turnovers. That's part of their damn good play down the stretch, right? In fact, this last game, they turned, 2 key turnovers, and I think the Saints had 8, the fewest in the league, or second fewest in the league, and they got 2 of them in one game. Defensively speaking, they're right up there. I think they were, second in total defense, 8th in yards given up, or 8th in points, I should say. But they have had some issues of late down the stretch. They gave up 46, 29, 31. So, they haven't been there and done that, as well. It's not like they're this established team or whatever. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's got the looks on Cousins, but, he does, turn the ball over a little bit more as far as this season. He has same amount of touchdowns, I think 14 picks or something like that, if I remember correctly, 13 picks, 27 and 13. So I didn't remember correctly. But, yeah, man, this is going to be another tight one. The Vegas has the Vikes down. They do have a 7-point favorite, I think it is, this week. So we're a 1.5 better. It is the number 1 seed. I do agree with the score being a tad lower on the books anyway than last week. I think it was 54 or 56 or something like that. This week, I think it's 46 is the over-under, if I remember correctly. I should actually check that. I think it's 46 is what they got the spread at. So I think that's about right, somewhere in that realm. 44.5 actually. Yeah, so that's even lower than I first thought. So, it's going to be an interesting game, man. That defensive line, that does stand out, man. That really does stand out. And I do think we're going to have to pass to run a little bit in the first half. We've had to do it against Philly. We've had to do it a couple of teams. The Broncos were a strong defense, not a good offense, but a strong defense. So we've faced some good defenses down the stretch, but yeah, usually it's kind of like boxing. Styles make fights, right? And so it doesn't, just because you're a top 10 defense doesn't mean you're going to shut us down, just like us against other teams. We're a top 10 defense. Some of the 20-yard pass plays that we led, we gave up the most or fourth most or whatever. And some of the other items that were maybe not as strong, they did, like third down, right? Third down, man, especially third and long this season. Not as good on defense. That kind of, makes me think, I don't know. But I think we got the linebackers defensively. And right now, the way the D's playing, I'm fairly, and I preference that, fairly confident that they're going to bring it in with that. And the 6 days instead of 7 days, that one less day to prepare and really not even prepare. I feel like it's just, rest, right? And then you got to travel to the West Coast and play an afternoon game. So there is something there. If you look at the travel and you look at what happens there on a short week, it's not quite a Thursday game. So that's good, right? But, those Thursday stats really stand out. However, we do have to think Thielen's got fresh legs, Cook's got fresh legs, and as a team, starting 22, none of them played last week, so they did have a 2-week gap before a game. So, and not only that, but adrenaline, right? That whole, hey, dude, we're back Monday. They're going to celebrate it, and they weren't even going to wait till Monday to stop celebrating. And they said once that plane touches down, it's over. Celebration's over. We got stuff to do. So I'm actually going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win a 23-20 game on the road, which may or may not end up with the conference game in Green Bay. I mean, we can't count out Seattle. Yeah, they're not the team they were a month ago because the injuries have really hurt them. But if you look at Green Bay and Seattle has had their number a little bit. So either way, it's going to be on the road, though. I got 23-20 Minnesota Vikings. What says you, sir?
We have like mine on a lot of those things. I really think this is where you're going to see the defense come out and make a statement here against the Niners. Now, offense has got to score 24 points. If they can score 24 points, I think we win this game. I think the defense is going to hold them under that number. I think that this defense
so my pick screwed them. Not to interrupt you, but you screwed my pick right there because we only scored 23. Damn it!
Oh, that's really.
No, you're right. You're right. I like that number.
I think that against Garoppolo, who doesn't have a lot of experience, yeah, he's some, like I said, I'm going to rest on the continuity of this defense being able to find a way to, to confuse him, to rattle him, to get the things. So I think that's really going to be the key to this game is our defense. They're going to have their licks on us defensively as well, but I think just as a whole, especially if we can get maybe Alexander back or Hughes back or somebody in there, or maybe even let Sendejo play because he played so well in it. But they got different kind of receivers there, man. They're the shifty, small, quick guys that have always been a problem for us. So we're going to have to figure out what to do about that. And a great tight end who's going to be a problem for us as well. He was a problem 2 years ago when he wasn't anybody, and now he's somebody. And he's going to be a problem for us as well. It's going to be Kendricks and the safeties being able to cover him. It's going to be a huge thing. Got to stop the run, obviously. But to wrap it all up, I'm going to go the Vikings win 24-13. I think the defense is really going to make a mark here in this game. And then go Hawks, man.
I like that. All right, so we got a dual victory for our beloved Minnesota Vikings. That would be really, really big. And, it's not the show to talk about what's next and let's rebuild this left side of the, line and let's extend this guy. We'll talk about that. We got plenty of time to talk about that. Let's take this thing all the way to February. Wouldn't that be nice? As far as Vikings go, that about wraps it up. We're both calling for a Vikings victory. And now is just a shortened, version of a Gopher segment. We've been doing this all year. And so, our Minnesota Gophers beat Auburn 7.5. Actually, it got to like 8.5 by the time the kickoff happened. But, down, a touchdown at times, 2 separate times I think it was. And kept tying the game. Then we got up. They kept tying the game. And, boy, did Tyler Johnson go out with a bang. I mean, golly, he's setting records, both Minnesota bowl-wise and Minnesota touchdowns and receiving yards and receptions. And then the one-hand grab, let's just throw that in. And then they got the same play they got with Bateman against Penn State. But this time, remember when he was wide open? You're like, oh my God, it's a double. Oh, it's open, dude. That's easy. That was the first. I think it was the first touchdown against. I'm pretty sure it was. Maybe I'm missing up name plays, but anyway, freaking Tyler Johnson went out like a stud. The defense played good enough to great at times. Just a great team effort to get that W. turnover on downs. We knew Bo Nix, as a freshman, had his problems. Sure, he can make plays with his feet and his arm and all that, but he's still got a little ways to go there. And I mean, considering that Big Daddy Brown in the middle played, and one of the edge rushers, they did have one edge rusher out, but I just love what I saw, and to get the best win at the end of the year is just something huge. We talked about how it may be a humbling experience, and that'll help us, but man, there is something here with the momentum in the offseason. I don't care what Flex says about momentum. This is fucking momentum, and this is fuel, and we may steal a guy down the stretch based off this too, as far as recruiting, because we have one or two spots available. So, because, the door doesn't shut till February, and really the door stays open later than that. But as far as the National Signing Day, final day, like I said, you can always tweak stuff or get JUCO transfers or whatever. But man, to get 11 wins, dude. Oh my God, 11-2, and it's something. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, what are we going to do? Tyler Johnson's gone. We're screwed." Just calm down, calm down. Last I checked, Iowa and Wisconsin didn't even have a Tyler Johnson, let alone a Bateman. And I'm pretty sure Bateman's going to draw doubles. And I'd rather have 6 guys on the offensive line that have played about, give or take, 20 games together and bring them all back too. I mean, I want Tyler back, of course, but he's a senior. He's had a great year. He could have left last year and been like a 3rd or 4th round pick. So he just jumped up maybe 10, 15 spots, who knows. So that was great to see. But, wow. And it really shows great coaching, great development on all that. We have 4 4-stars or 5 4-stars on our squad. You line that up with Auburn or some of these other teams, Penn State, it gets ridiculous, right? But that's where development and all that comes through in the quote-unquote culture, right? But to get this win at the end of the year, when you had that 3-week break, a lot of great coaches will just mess you up in that time. You know what I mean? And now, is it 4 straight wins in a bowl game? But the last 2 have been really, really impressive, man. I don't have anything else to say.
Well, if the Viking win was a surprise, then this Gopher win was shock. I mean, you think you're going against an SEC school that's really, really good, a team that played one of the toughest schedules in the country. And, we didn't really like the outcome to win in this game, and they just came out and dominated from the get-go. Yeah, they gave up a long punt return, or was it a kick return? I'm not sure, but, and from then on, it was just, the offensive line was ridiculously good, and they had moved some pieces around. You didn't have Big Dan in there, and they still moved it. And defensively, they played a lot better than I thought they were going to, and you just go, okay, well, I mean, now the hype is on. I mean, everybody who was on the fence about being a believer in the Golden Gophers in this state is now firmly on board. And you look around the Big Ten of who won and lost in their bowl games. Wisconsin lost to Oregon. The Big Ten didn't fare all that well. They didn't, they did all right, but they didn't do all that well in bowl games. And here we are, beating Auburn decisively in a New Year's Eve bowl game. I mean, Chris, growing up, man, I mean, this is just not something. This is all new territory for us, and it's hard to kind of take in and understand the significance of it. But it just leads into that's a hot ticket next season, and it's a different schedule next season and all that stuff. And recruiting's gone well, and we get to see some new faces in there. And man, it's really nice to see that being the front door of your universities, having a quality a football program. Yes, it's sports. Yes, it's not everything, but it makes a heck of a lot of money for the university. And not that the university has ever been low on money, but it's just really nice to have that as kind of your welcome mat. And I'm really happy about PJ. I'm really happy that people have come around. Through wins, obviously. I mean, that's what it's got to take. But through wins, he's proven that it's something that you can believe in. It's going to be a solid product. And it's so nice to not have to find a surrogate football program for college football every season. You know, you have the home
New Year's
team.
Day was like, all right, when is the other squad playing now? You know.
And, we're going to see Ohio State next year. We're going to see Michigan State next year. We're going to see some,
we're not
Wisconsin
playing Ohio
earlier.
State next year. Don't do that.
Oh, not next year.
Don't
okay.
do that to us yet. We got 4 home games. 4 home fans out there. 4 home September games.
Yeah, Wisconsin's one of them.
Nope.
Sorry, Wisconsin's not one. Iowa's one of them. Yep, early in the season. Iowa and Wisconsin early.
Yep.
So it's going to be an interesting kind of disjointed Big Ten schedule next year. But, I really think we're up for it. We've got definitely the kids that were going to be replacements coming in next year showed that they could play. They're going to double Bateman until Ottman-Bell goes off next year.
Right.
Hopefully that's the case. And then you're back in the same situation with who do you double, who do you bracket. There's nobody to do that. Plus there's kids that we don't even know about coming in, and Mo Ibrahim sure said he locked down the running back spot for the next 2 seasons if he stays. So defensively, there's players that are popping up in there. So, man, it's in good shape. It's running good. Let's just be happy about it because, for our years, man, it's never been like this, and you got to enjoy it while it is, whether it's a long run or a short one. Just enjoy it while it's here because, man, I never thought it was even possible for this program to reach this type of height. And we only got up from here. So, yeah, excellent season, excellent looking forward into next season. So couldn't be happier about that.
Yeah, and year 3 especially. I was thinking 4 or 5, that you can actually – and look at the last 2 years, the amount of red shirts. You know what I mean? We've talked about that a couple times. That's key because when you start to see the turnover from Wisconsin and Iowa this next year, you can see who they got right there. Now, maybe the center – that Wisconsin is going to lose, to the draft first or second rounder. Maybe that guy's not going to be a first or second rounder next year, week 6. So that's an advantage. Or Iowa, right? They're going to lose a tackle who's going in the first round. Is that next tackle going to be a first rounder next year, week 3? We're going to find out. You know what I mean? So that's what's important. But you're right about that defense, dude. And we can't understate that because we had that kind of knuckleheaded interception that led to a field goal, right? And then, like you said, there was a special teams touchdown, and I totally forgot about that. We gave up 14 points. Now, what blows you away is LSU, the juggernaut of offense. It was 23-20 that game. 23-20. Now, that was at Auburn, but 23-20, dude. And they played – as far as the last ranking, now they haven't done the last ranking, right? Because they still got to play the game, the big game. But Auburn came in there having played 5 of the top 13 teams in that ranking. Not AP, not they were top 10 when they played them. At the end of the year, they played 5 top 13 teams, Auburn did, which obviously is nuts, right? But that just shows you. They beat Alabama in their last game. They almost beat who most people think is going to win, or at least they're in the championship, LSU, 23-20. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal. And we had 4 huge games this year, and we won 2 of them. And that's how you chop this tree down. You just keep chopping into it. And like I said, we could have a 10-2 season and potentially get to the conference final next year, having the same exact record potentially. You just never know. So yeah, man, that pretty much. Well,
a quick question.
Go ahead, sir.
A quick question for the college ball show. You guys might want to chew it up a little bit. Is how good is the SEC really? How and what is the difference now between the Big Ten and the SEC? Are they pretty much equal conferences? I know the highly touted, highly vaunted SEC, holy grail of football is the thing, but I think we've learned something in this bowl season that kind of maybe they're not as so much ahead in quality of football and in quality of player as had been previously thought. I think that it's evened out a bit more than people think. And I think the Big Ten's right there is 1 and 2, and possibly 1 and 1A as to the top football conference in college football.
Well, a chunk of basically since Ohio State won it in 2013 or something like that. They've been knocking at the door of the Big Ten, hasn't the SEC? And there's a couple of years where you could probably say the East is stronger than the West of the SEC. The SEC, that's where LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, when Ole Miss was good, that's where that was on that side. Whereas you got Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and right now Michigan State's we're gonna find out where they're going this next year. But yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something we have been talking about. I don't know about this season, but in general, yeah, they've been nipping at it, and there was a year in there that they had the better, the better conference, one of them anyway. But yeah, that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. And the ACC is top heavy, but they have 3 out of the last 6 or 7 championships, and they do really well in the draft too. And they have a lot of, Pro Bowl or All Pro players too. So they're lingering not because of depth, but because of Clemson and Florida State a hand years ago with Winston. When they won that one, obviously, and then what Clemson's been able to do right to Alabama, like directly beating them, especially last year. Whew. But yeah, man, definitely, man. This was a really good show. Any last things to add before we shut this puppy down?
No, sir. Let's wrap it up.
All right. We need a Skol Vikings. We need to get this W. We'll be back next Monday, assumingly. Let's get this W, dude. Saturday is the day for the Vikings to get the W. Appreciate all the listeners. We'll be back next week. Peace.